Hasluck.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and I thank the member for Indi for bringing this motion before the chamber. The member has been an advocate for integrity in our political system since she first entered the parliament, and I was very pleased to work with the member on the Joint Select Committee for the legislation for the National Anti-Corruption Commission. We can, as a parliament, be proud that the NAC now exists. I too acknowledge the good that can flow from the application of Commonwealth Grants for our community and sporting groups, businesses, local governments and not-for-profits. In Hasluck, as I stand here speaking on this, there are a number of very worthy groups waiting patiently to hear whether they've been successful in their applications for the community volunteer grants. Grants should be allocated both fairly and transparently. It is certainly correct that this did not apply to all the grant allocation under the previous coalition government. Over a year ago now, the National Audit Office reported on the Coalition's Building Better Regions Fund and found evidence of significant rorting. It was a $1.15 billion fund, and Australians who simply had the wrong postcode had a much lesser chance of succeeding in an application. Liberal and National Health seats were unfairly favoured. And then there was the commuter car park program, subject of a scathing assessment by the National Audit Office, which found that the Infrastructure Department has selected exactly none of the 47 sites and described the coalition process as a non-competitive, non-application-based process that was not demonstrably merit-based. Not only were many of the other car parks not needed, some of them were going to be built on land already earmarked for other purposes. In the now electorate of my friend, the member for Macnamara, the land was already allocated for public housing, which demonstrates not only the Coalition's poor planning and pork barrelling, but also their lack of commitment to public housing, further demonstrated by their failure to vote for the Housing Future Fund. The voting public should be reminded of this chicanery by the Coalition on a regular basis. It wasn't $660 million from the sky. It was hundreds of millions of taxpayers' dollars being sprayed up against a wall of a car park. Likewise, the Coalition's community sports infrastructure grants were simply an attempt to bolster the chances of the Liberals and Nationals hanging on to marginal seats. The member for Cook's webpage still encourages people to apply for this grant today. In June this year, the Joint Committee of Public Accounts and Audit found the Coalition's grant processes across a number of schemes involved unjustifiably partisan outcomes, with ministers' decisions simply not recorded, inadequate or unavailable. Until we have seen a wholesale turnover of Coalition members, we shall keep reminding voters that the member for Cook, the member for Dixon and Senator McKenzie and others were responsible for this serial travesty. It is unfortunate that the member for Indi refers to the Albanese government's community battery program alongside these other programs in this motion. As apart from the fact that it's an excellent pledge made from opposition, and apart from the fact that the initial distribution of the 50 batteries appears to be very even, their member for Indi knows that all prospective applicants for the hundreds of community batteries still to be rolled out will be dealt with at arm's length by ARENA, which is, as far as I can tell, exactly what the member for Indi wants. So too the government's Growing Regions programs. The guidelines for which were announced in May this year evidence the government's commitment to fairness and transparency. The guideline includes the introduction of a multi-party parliamentary panel. The panel will recommend only projects that represent regional priorities, and an external probity advisor who will provide advice to the multi-party parliamentary panel. Back home in Hasluck, I've created a local grants committee of people independent of myself and my party to make recommendations for community grants. A few of the grant recipients have included the Perth Observatory Volunteer Group, who run out of the Perth Observatory in Bickley and have received funding for first aid training and a defibrillator. The Parkerville Playgroup for their play equipment, shade sails, benches and a range of equipment to help them maintain their gorgeous building and excellent services, and I look forward to seeing them on Friday. The Trillion Trees in Hazelmere for misting fans to support their volunteers for taking care of their nursery of plants in Perth's hot summer weather. Trillion Tree plants native trees all over Hasluck and Perth. Integrity is basic to the work we do here. I thank the member for Indi for raising this important matter, and I commend the work done by the Joint Committee of Public Accounts and Audit, chaired by my friend, the member for Bruce. I'm aware that the government is considering the recommendations of that committee's report, and I look forward to being part of the parliament to see it implemented in due